Let's understand JavaScript Event Listeners and some of its cool event types. What are event listeners? Event listeners are functions in JavaScript that are executed in response to specific events triggered by user interactions or other actions on elements. Let's understand how to actually use event listeners on web page elements with examples. Click event fires when a user clicks on an element. We will use query selector in JavaScript to call this HTML element with the click_event class. Then we add a click event with addEventLister function. Now we can do anything we want to the button once it's clicked, including changing its style properties. We have a transparent background color, but we can change it to a hex code. Please use backticks here, not commas. We can do more than one thing here. We can even use root variables from CSS. Now we know how to write event listeners in JavaScript. Now, we will use this input field to add mouseover event listener to it. Mouseover event fires when the mouse pointer enters an element. This time we use ID name of input, just for the sake of doing it. So we are using mouseover event to ensure when we move the cursor inside the input field, the background color of the input field changes to blue. It works, but for most animations, you'd want the input field to revert to its previous color when the cursor leaves, like a hover effect. For that, we can use mouseout event on the same input field. Mouseout event fires when the mouse pointer leaves an element. We can add any background color, but the best option is the original color for a cool hover effect using JavaScript. Works great. These two are part of mouse events, however there are many other mouse events. I forgot to mention the two click events we have, click and dbclick. We have already seen click, but dbclick is simply fired when same element gets clicked double. Let's do form events. We are going to do input change and submit events. For form events, we have created a small form with input field and button. I didn't even bother styling it. How rude. Submit event fires when a form is submitted. Remember when you worrying about the message sent or message not sent to pop up? Well, here is how you can handle form submission. Just get the message element from HTML and add text inside that element. We can also use conditions to specify which message to display, error message or success message. I should probably make a video on form handling someday. Great idea, right? Make sure to add an event listener to the entire form. Preventfo is a method used to prevent the default action of an event from occurring. INNY or HTML is a property used to get or set the HTML content inside an element. By the way, this time we are using commas, not backticks. By the way, don't be lazy like me and style this form. Looks simple, right? Change event fires when the value of an input element changes. Now, taking the input field, we will add change event listener on it. While you are bored with this video, please move your thumb or cursor and accidentally subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate this accident. And now that we are done with our formality of asking for subscribe, let's talk about event listeners again. Let's use our console now to show this event. Console is the best way to debug and test your code, especially for event listeners, to see if they are working or not. Let's see if it works. Cool. One more time to be sure for no reason. Input event fires every time the value of an input element changes, more immediate than change. The difference between change and input event is that the change event fires when an element loses focus after its value has been modified, while the input event fires immediately whenever the value changes. Let's see it in action one more time for the people in the back. Form events in JavaScript are events that are triggered by user interactions with form elements, allowing developers to handle actions such as submission, input changes, and form resets. Let's do window events like load, resize, and scroll. Since these are window events, we will add event listeners on window rather than any element. Load event fires when the whole page, including all dependent resources such as style sheets and images, has finished loading. This can come in handy if your web page is taking centuries to load all your content, which is not good. Oh, look, it works when I refresh the page. Resize event fires when the window is resized. As simple as that. Now, when we change the width or height of the browser window, we will have this console message displaying. Well, this works great. Time for scroll event. Let's just add a few million words on the web page so we can scroll. Oops. This dude sounds fun saying oops. This should be enough to scroll. For now, we have no console messages when we scroll, obviously. Scroll event fires when the document or an element is scrolled. Now, when we scroll, we get notified with the console message. I guess I enjoy displaying the output to you guys a lot. I even repeat it many times. Window events in JavaScript are events that are triggered by changes or actions affecting the browser window or document, including types such as load, resize, and scroll. For focus events, we will do blur and focus. For focus events, let's create a separate form so as to not confuse ourselves, and obviously I won't bother with styling it since I am lazy. Did you guys notice how good I am at naming class and IDs? I am a genius. That looks way too stuck on the ground, may get hidden by the subtitles of this video, so let's put BR tags. Looks dope. Let's go back to JavaScript Event Listeners. Focus event fires when an element gains focus. Which means when I click inside the input field, since we are putting focus event listener on input, the function will trigger displaying the message in console. Now I know there are many other event listeners types, but I have only covered the most important ones. As far as keyboard events are concerned, we will cover them in YouTube short once I figure out how to make sure you guys can see what I am pressing on the keyboard. Oh look, input is very focused. Blur event fires when an element loses focus. So now this event listener function is gonna trigger this blur on the input when I click outside the input field and display the console message of input lost focus. Congratulations, input lost focus. In short, focused events in JavaScript occur when an element gains or loses focus, with types including focus fired when an element gains focus, and blur fired when it loses focus.